Hello, can you hear me? Knock, knock. Who's there? Hello? Nope, I did not turn it off. Okay. But it is. Anyways, sorry about the background noise. There is, yard work going on in the neighbor's yard. And I'm getting all sorts of error messages that this stream is all glitchy. Please let me know how it is on your end. If I have to, I may just end up turning it off and on again. So let me know. It's been 6 minutes of these issues, so I'm doing my very best. Just feedback would be appreciated because I am talking off into the void. I kind of am avoiding talking off into the void. But anyways, let me scooch that and scooch this. What am I scooching? You guys can't see from there. That's okay. You guys can't see my table. That's all right. It's a mess. What do we do when we have a lot of projects on our plate? We start more projects. Oh, look at people are responding. Let's see. Nothing's on fire. That's a good start. Yes, I agree. You can hear me. Okay. I feel much better. Thank you for the feedback. It helps. In the title and description, I said I'm going to make a pair of pants, and that is my goal for today. I plan on making a pair of pants. But before I get to the pants, I just have to let you know that I have a lot of projects on my plate, and I'm kind of excited about it. Of course, you guys know about the cone dress. That one is disassembled and being pressed right now, and is not on set for the first time in a while, which is kind of nice because it's getting out of here soon. I have this crazy art project over here. I don't even know how to begin to explain. I love it though. Made out of lace. It's pretty. That I'm working on. Actually, yeah, no, I still am. That's mostly done. I just have to finish the veil that goes with it. And then this pile right here is a mock-up of a dress that I'm working on that is going to be due within the next week or two. It's turning out really cool. But one thing I was playing with this morning before we get to the pants is, you know how I was talking about I have this melting kit? Well, it's not a melting kit, it's a cutting kit. What is it called? This is a foam cutting kit. Okay, that's what they call this kit officially. It is fancy. It has a wire cutter, but it also has 2 of these attachments. What are these attachments? These are hot pokey sticks. What's so amazing about hot pokey sticks? I'm looking for a piece of scrap lace because I just had one, and this lace is a little chonky. Scraps everywhere. And then I need oh, here we go. Here's a scrap of lace. So see how I have these little motifs? These are cut motifs, of course, because it's a scrap. But these little embroidered lacy pieces. I have this, and I have a mirror. Can I see the mirror? Anyways, the mirror is my burning surface. Put the lace on top of that, but before I can start, I have to heat up the pokey stick. It's not hot right now. Has a little stand for me to put it on. Keep it up and away. But what's really nice is that this net that it's on, it just melts when you touch the tip of it, so you can cut it out. Typically, when I used to make wedding dresses, we would use these little bird scissors. And we would cut as close to the lace without cutting through to the lace, because you don't want to have it unravel on you. It's dangerous, and it takes a little bit of time and patience to get around these details. But it's a great way to harvest motifs for dresses or designs or whatever. But little scissors, really close, but cutting out a little generic lace motif, okay? How I typically do it, a little fray check, maybe some starch or something like that. But it still needs to get hot. But using the hot poker stick, I put the lace right on top of the mirror, and it's still heating up, so I have to wait. Oh, you guys are commenting. Audio and visual looks fine. Yes, thank you, thank you. I sympathize. I have 800 things to do. I feel like we always have 800 things to do. Even when we don't, we should be probably doing 800 things that I'm not doing. DJ Stumpy, hi, I'm going to be diving in and out of this one. Nice to see another Ryobi product. Hey, I love free tools. They are the best, and power tools are like the right tool for the job, makes it so much easier. It's never stopped me not having the right tool. I'm going to do it anyways. I'll figure it out. But having a nice tool to do it and make it significantly easier, it's like I am all there. A couple things that I have figured out post, I don't have to make dresses every day, but now that I'm doing them in my own space and time, I have little things that I've figured out, like this measuring tape. A rigid measuring tape is great for doing huge circle skirts. We had been suffering with these cloth ones, which are great. Just wore them around my neck, and I always had something to measure with. But trying to do giant circle skirts with trains, here's all my math, figuring it out, how it all needs to be laid out, and then measuring it. Laying a giant measuring tape that is rigid on the table to do those cuts and measurements, I'm just like, why didn't I do this before? We had clamps that we would clamp our measuring tape to use it like a compass or whatever, where you're drawing those circles. We did all sorts of things like that, but just having a rigid measuring tape, so much faster and easier. Instead of hand cutting out the little lace motifs. I like to burn them. It's finally hot enough. It's not blinking anymore. So all I have to do is, you saw how fast I cut that one out. This is about the same size. The problem with this one is I gunked up the tip of it on plastic before I ever did this, but look at 2 seconds and I cut it out perfectly, and I cauterized the edges, so it's not going to unfray on me. So instead of hand cutting out motifs, I'm going to melt them out. And I know this is an industry standard, but I also worked in the industry and we still cut things out by hand, and I just really like having a little mobile tool with no wires to hold me down. I don't want to poke myself either, but just a fun little thing I was playing with, because right now I am currently cutting out a bunch of motifs for multiple projects that I'm working on. One of them is that lady over there, and she's starting to look really pretty, but I need some more motifs for her. Let me put this down so I don't burn anything. And of course I'm wearing lace. Of course I'm wearing black and things that lace just sticks straight to. So I am covered in strings and scraps and bits and bobs, but fun problems, because I'm going to have really fun things when I'm finished with these projects. Michael Snell says, mirrors are so useful. I couldn't see myself living in a house with no mirrors. Right? Very interesting. I do like mirrors. I think they are fun. I like to decorate with them. I like to reflect certain, like, I like to put them with stairs and make stairs look even bigger and weirder. Like when we did the Harry stairs, Taylor Park's music video, there's one scene where she's sitting on a set of stairs that is all hairy. We put a bunch of wigs down and then she's up against a mirror, so it looks like there's even more stairs and hair than there actually were. I really like playing with mirrors. They're really fun to work with in art, but also as a crafting tool. More when I was watching different techniques, I saw somebody using a heating element. I think they were using actually a soldering iron to cut out motifs, but that just seemed a little weird, and this was meant for cutting foam, so I figured it could cut polyester because synthetics are a synthetic is a synthetic. This probably wouldn't work on silk. Silk and other natural fabrics are more heat resistant. They don't just melt away like a glob, but a good polyester will just completely disintegrate. All right, I have gone off on a tangent. I have been avoiding pulling everything out. Let's get down to pants topic. I put all my stuff so I have some clear space. Okay, let's talk pants. Let's talk pajama pants. Let's talk pant patterns, okay? Right here, I have a pair of pajama pants. They do not have the elastic in them because I stole the elastic for another project. But these are the simplest, easy pair of pants you could possibly make. They have a total of 2 seams. There is no side seam, so on the sides there's nothing sewn together. The only seams are the center crotch seam and the inseam. Take one leg and you turn it inside out, and take the other leg and you put it inside of that leg. These are not felt, they are flannel, so they stick to each other like a felt board. But this is one pattern piece. There's a front, there's a back. Actually, I'm just looking and I don't actually think. Oh, yep, there is. Okay. I was going to say my mom made these pajama pants when she was going through and making mass pajama pants for everybody. The front of the pajamas, or the front of the pants, are a 1/2 inch shorter than the back of the pants. You can do a 1/2 inch, you can do a full inch. I typically do a full inch, but that's because my butt needs it. I don't know. How do you say that nicely? There's more fullness in the back than there is in the front. So when you when you are making pants, the back seam is anywhere from a 1/2 inch to a full inch bigger than the front seam. And the back seam is a little bit longer in the swoop than the front seam, but they fit together. So the 2 seams you sew are the crotch seam and the under seam. Now the pair of pants that I'm making today, I drafted the pattern myself. Ta-da! Okay. I have a back leg and I have a front leg, and there should also be a pocket, but I couldn't find that pattern piece today. It fits right here. It squares this out, and then actually I'm wearing these pants. that this pattern is drafted to make right now. It's pockets. You guys totally could not see that. But this is a pair of pants that I made. Actually, this whole jumpsuit I made. But I'm not going to do the jumpsuit. I'm only doing the pants part. And there is a little bit of from the side seam to the pocket, where you put your hand in the pocket, but it's all black. I have a hole right here. I just saw that. But I know how to fix it, so I'll just fix it real quick. Not right now. But I drafted these pants to be at my natural waist, so they're like high-waisted as opposed to a dropped waist or anything like that. But it gives me wiggle room to like fold over for the waistband. And I have to, when I cut these off, remember that this fold is my new hem. On this side I taped it. On this one I just folded it. But I also did a version where I cuffed the ankles with the built-in elastic, and then I did a version where I just cut it straight. So I'm doing the version where I just cut it straight this time, as opposed to cuffing the ankles, because it's a whole nother step, and I'm not going to do that today. It's a little boring. I'm just going to finish the edges. I'm going to let the fabric be fun, okay? I know it's not the craziest fabric, but I'm just doing them out of this black crushed velvet. There's definitely a direction. If it's this way, it's one color. If it's this way, it's another color. Like, you won't notice until you put one piece up against another, and then you'll be like, why do they not match the same way? This way, this way. But anyways, this is leftover from the Harley Quinn costume. I had the red fabric, and then I used the leftover the red fabric to make a red dress that I wore to a wedding. And I'm using the rest of this black fabric to just make a pair of pants that will be comfortable for pajama pants. But let's face it, I'll probably wear them out because this is fun. Pants can be out of any fabric. You tend to use heavier weight fabrics because they're a little bit more heavily worn than your torsos. You sit on them, you know, kind of a thing. Like why upholstery fabric's a little bit more heavy duty because you sit on it. But as far as materials go, I'm going with a stretch knit because of the way these pants fit. A little bit of stretch is nice. It's not necessary, but the ease is already built in. Ease, what does ease mean? Who knows? Ding, ding, ding. 5 points for Gryffindor. No, I'm just teasing. But ease is the additional measurements that you add to a garment that are more than just the measurements of the body. So if your body measures at, let's say, I'm just thinking of all the weird measurements because each different body part you can kind of do different amounts of ease. What am I talking about? So around your waist, I typically, when I'm doing a stretch knit, like a t-shirt knit, and I want a well-fitting tight t-shirt, I might do 3 inches of negative ease. What? 3 inches of negative ease? That means I take whatever my waist measurement is and subtract 3 from it, and then pattern as if that's my new waist measurement. And when I put it on, I will get a nice snug fit, and the fabric will stretch easily to fit around it. Now, when you have a woven fabric that doesn't have any stretch, you might do a positive 3 inches of ease, where you add 3 inches so that you have breathing room, bending room, and moving room. You know, not so much room that it looks baggy or comfy like this sweater does, but so that you can bend, move, function, and breathe. Corsets and fitted bodice tend to be at exact measurements or with built in with negative ease. And if you're doing body suits like swimwear or dancewear. Oh my gosh, I got something in my eyeball. Oh, you can do like 6 inches of negative ease. And then as you get up in sizing, like as you get like larger circumferences around, you can take more and more ease because you have more stretch to go around as you get into larger sizes. So you can get 6 to 10 to 12 inches of negative ease and it still be comfortable. So all of that saying, when a fabric pattern says use this type of fabric, use the type of fabric, it says because it usually is the right kind of stretchiness for what's built in the pattern. I patterned this for a 4-way stretch. I've cut it out of a 2-way stretch and it does work. So this is my 2-way stretch and I am going to use this one for this pattern. But I have to make sure that my stretch of my fabric goes around my body, not up and down. So if it's going to stretch, it stretches where I need it. And if it's not going to stretch, it's not going to stretch out. Okay. Long-winded explanation of what ease is and such. But I hope you guys now feel more educated and informed and not so afraid to pick out fabrics because fabrics are fun. All right, I just ranted. Let's see what people are saying. So there's no fly on these. No flies. These ones are fitted in the front, so there's no stretch at the waistband, but there is gathers at the back of the, I'm not gonna just show y'all my booty, but there's gathers at the back of the pants. So there is elastic in the back half of the pants, but not the front half of these pants. And so they should be able to pull up and over my waist and then scrunch down to, up over my hips and scrunch down to my waist measurement. So pajama pants, as long as they fit over your hips, they can scrunch down to your waist measurement. Hope that helps. DJ Stumpy says, I had to go at some trousers a few months ago. Not sure what happened. I thought I had done the right length. However, by the end, they were higher than Michael Jackson's ankle bashers. Okay, so when I sew a pair of pants, I start at the top and I work my way down, pinning and sewing, because if there's going to be any differences of the fabrics, I'd rather them not meet up at the bottom. But sometimes fabrics can scrunch up on you, but that might just be the tension that you're sewing with or having. So many of, you just got to smoosh it or you got to smoosh it. Happens a lot with sewing. But that is why these pants have so much of an extra cuff, because I'd rather have too much and cut it off than not enough and have a little bit of a high water action, unless of course that's what I want, because pants are also can be short, so you don't have to do a full length pant. You can do nice shorts and then you can get more fabric in and way more produced for less fabric, you know, speed it up a bit. Yeah, but if you don't want to have Michael Jackson pants, you can always turn them into shorts. Yep, 45th Clown. I used to buy 2 pairs of trousers with suits because they wore out so much quicker. Very smart. Very, very, very clever. Because pants really do. If you wear them separately, costuming suits, if it was a suit and it had matching pants, I kept them together. So if the jacket got worn, the pants got worn. But that's what luxury I had in costuming. You know what I mean? But if there were a pair of pants that I had to use without the jacket, yeah, they get faded because they get washed. They get changed and they get worn out way quicker than a jacket for sure. DJ, you can't trim them down and make them shorts? Nope, still, or Michael Snell says, nope, still terrified of fabric. Ooh, fabric. No, I love it. It is intimidating. I got a whole degree in this stuff and I still am learning things every day. You really just got to kind of just scrunch up your elbows and get into it and then you figure it out. But yes. DJ Stumpy, they were for my Red Dwarf cosplay, so not something I'd wear regularly. I just got to go back to the drawing board. Yep. So make sure that you have extra at the ankles so that you can hem them appropriately. Okay, I am avoiding cutting out my pants. That's okay. Sugar motivates me to get going. All right. Let's see if I even have enough of this fabric. Okay. Ooh, and I disappeared. No, I'm teasing. Okay. Let's find out the grain of this fabric. I have a selvage edge with dots on it, so I know that this is my straight of grain. Oh, dang. Okay, so sometimes fabrics just, it might be a straight line on the cut edge, but it doesn't mean it's necessarily lined up, and you can see by the way it folds on the end, if it's like off grain, if it like has those pull lines or those drapey lines, you know that it's off grain, but this is perfectly on grain and I cut it a straight line. Little victories. It just, when you start out things straight and lining up, they tend to keep going straight and lining up. So when you start a project and you're like, yes, the project's gonna go good. This project, I started cutting it out and like the flowers just laid exactly where they were supposed to be. Like the pretty one that I like is my favorite in the lace pattern. You know how lace has all the different flowers and there's always your favorite one. Happens to line up right front and center where I exactly wanted it when I just threw it down before I started to look how I was gonna lay things out. I was like, yep, this thing's going great. It's meant to be. This project's gonna go with the flow. There are projects that aren't, and we take deep breaths, walk away, and come back to those projects till we get in the good groove, if we have that luxury. Oh, geez. Static electricity, it's crazy. Okay, so this is my line. Now, do I want it this way, or do I want it this way? Is there a difference? Yes. Do I know what it is? Not 100%. Look at the light. I think it's slightly darker if this is the top, and I like it as the darker than the lighter. So I choose this side to be the top of my pants, and I'll cut down this way. This is out of the way. Put that mirror over there. I don't typically cut things out on the fold if I can avoid it, but it means I cut out a whole lot less times right now. So we're doing it. We are doing it. Okay. Let me come over here. I have too many power tools on the table. Little tiny ones, but too many of them on the table. They go in my Ryobi bag. Okay. You guys saw none of the stuff I cleared, but it wasn't that much. It just was. The table gets used. That means crafts have been crafting. Okay. No fabric hanging off the edge. Why don't we have fabric hanging off the edge of the table when we're cutting it? Even if the fabric's too big for the cable we're cutting in. Because it'll pull and everything will be off and everything will line up, and the worst is when you're cutting out fabric and it starts falling off the table. these are things that I know and I say out loud because I've learned these lessons, but I haven't done them in so long, so why do I say these things out loud? Helping my little brother make a pair of pajama pants the other day, and he's like, I know everything starts to fall off the table and I'm cutting it. I'm like, yeah, this is why you don't let anything hang off no fabric hanging off the table when you're cutting out fabric. He's like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, yeah, it does. But sometimes I have to say it out loud so that I remind myself, don't let fabric hang off the edge of the table. I'm thinking. Maybe I should think out loud since you guys are watching me think. I'm laying this down and my side seam's completely straight on my back pattern piece. And my side seam on my front pattern piece has that little divot for the pockets. But I'm wondering if I just put these two pieces together and completely forget about the pattern piece and cut them out as one pair of pants. Yeah, I think that's how I'll do it. Okay, what am I doing? So, I'm going to take, this is my pant front. It has a little indentation for my pocket to put a pocket into here. When I sew up on my side seam, it fits together to my back seam right here with the room for the pocket. Now I'm going to completely eliminate this seam as at all. I'm just going to take these two pieces of paper together, not really because I don't have to, I can just lay them next to each other like this, lining them up at my hip line. See that big pink line that is right about at the microphone? And see how I had that little wedge shape cut out at where the pocket is? I'm going to ignore that wedge shape, make sure that my back is about an inch higher than my front, which it kind of does when I line them up correctly. Even out the top and cut it out as one pattern piece that's this shape as opposed to two pieces and having a cool pocket. Because although I do love pockets, I just want a funky pair of pants that I can pull on Okay, let me do that. I am going to smoosh you over and these over. I'm not off far away, I'm right here. I'm just straightening my pattern pieces out from this vantage point to make sure everything's laying down flush. Okay. You guys want to see my crazy table? Let me just flip you down. Oh, you guys can't quite see. Well, how'd you enjoy the ride? Nauseous? Dizzy yet? It's okay. I am going to cut out 2 pattern pieces. And I'm going to sew 2 seams today. Okay, 3, because I have a waistband seam to sew too. I'm not going to use sewing pins, but I was going to use some pattern weights just so I don't slip everything around. I think I'm good. I know what I'm doing. I might as well just cut it out. Cutting out the fabric's my biggest hurdle into making a project. Like, none of the other steps stop me. It's the cutting the fabric, because that's the commitment. You can't uncut fabric. But it's okay, it'll look beautiful. Let's do it! No breathing. I'm teasing. What's nice is that the instructions for making a pair of the pants are the same. The fabric style type, you know, there might be extra steps or such, but the concept, the more and more pants I make, the less scary it gets, because you start to figure things out and then you go, oh, I was just intimidating myself. Happens all the time. Okay, let's see. I'm not far away. I'm just getting the end of the hem of my pants. You hear that cutting sound? That's like my favorite. No fabric hanging off the edge, just in case you didn't hear that. And for you people who cut your fabric on the floor, I'm one of y'all. I see the advantages of it all the time. Cut, 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 cut. When you're cutting out your fabric, you don't necessarily put it in the very center. You try and put it so that you can preserve as big of chunks of fabric as you can. So that, don't want to put that wire, that would not be good. But so that when you have to go back and you want to reuse your project scraps, you have big enough pieces to fit things in. When I was little, my mom used to hate it when I'd get into her stuff, and I would cut a piece from the very center of a piece of fabric. She's like, what the heck? And it just didn't make sense. And now that I'm like, you know, started making my own things and not getting into her stuff. Okay, I have to do this from the other side. Hello. I'm just right behind the camera. Literally right behind the camera where you guys cannot see me, so that I can just get this last little bit. Okay, beautiful. Okay. I feel like this is the only little scrap that I'm going to throw away because the other piece was big enough that it was worth keeping. Okay. My pattern weights away. And let's look at the pattern piece I just cut out. This is my back, this is my front, this is my waistband, down here's my ankles. So there's some controversy in how people put together their pants. There are two main seams you have to see. So the crotch seam and the inseam. We eliminated the side seam. There's no need for a side seam. It's already sewn together. But the easiest way to do it is you put your right sides together. Let me do that because I have to do that anyways. Very easy to tell the difference between the right side and the wrong side together. And you sew the front. Oh wait, that's the back. You sew the back, you sew the front, and then you pull them apart and you sew straight down the center. The easiest way to make pants by far, and if it's the first time you make pants, that's the way I suggest doing it. The other way to do it is you take one pant leg. Where are we? Here's my top. Okay. Take one pant leg, right sides together. See this pointy piece and this pointy piece? That's the top of your seam. And you sew this leg to this leg. Oops. And they should line up at the hem. This is where a lot of people get off on this method because the back point's going to be longer than the front point, but from the point to your ankle should be exactly the right length. And you sew the inseam on both pants, and then you put the other pant inside of one leg inside of the other, the way I showed you with these pants over here. So it looks like this, and then you sew this seam, and then your pants are together. So it's the same two seams getting sewn, different order of operations. Let's talk about the benefits and disadvantages of both. The benefit of doing it the first way, it's easy to line up. It's super easy to do with crazy curves. So if you're doing fabrics that are really like just fighting you sometimes, just sewing those curves like that while they're flat is super easy. And then doing a straight line is super easy and beginner friendly. Now, the reason that my sewing teachers did not like this method is because they're like, who stands in middle splits? Like, that is perfect for people walking around in middle splits because you do that inseam is a straight line. I had no problem with this because I did gymnastics and I was like, oh, whatever, I'm going to be kicking around. It's the easier method. It was my preferred method. You know, it's the way my mom does the pajama pants because you can really streamline pajama pants that way. But I do like the other way where you do the inseam, the other inseam, and then you do the crotch seam because it does they lay nicer. The pants just like, the curve's the right shape. You know what I mean? It doesn't get... Not that it gets stretched out, but, you know, like my teacher said, you're not spending your life in middle splits. So this is a stretchy fabric. It doesn't matter which way. I'll let you guys vote. I'll give you guys just a second with method 1 or 2. Give me a 1 or a 2 of which way you want me to sew these pair of pants. Whether you want me to sew method 1 of sewing the front and back and then sending the side seam. The inseam, sorry, can't talk today, or method 2 where I do the inseams first and then the crotch seam. So I'll give you just a minute to do that, and I'll also read what your comments are saying. Okay, Michael Snell, can you explain to me what bias is and why it's important? Talk to me like I'm 4. Okay. Did you see our pretty fabrics? This one is very noticeable if you cut it the wrong way because of the nap of the fabric. Nap is the fancy way to say that there's a fur to it. It'll affect the light and the way you perceive the fabric. So if you are not straight up and down, your fabric's going to look different when you sew it to another piece of fabric, and will be able to tell the difference. Now, the grain line, doesn't have a woven grain line because it is a stretch knit. When you knit something, you make these rows of loops, and they follow ribs, and they go straight up and down. And you can see these ribs on the back side of your fabric. And you want to make sure that your fabric... So this stretches this way very easily, but it doesn't stretch this way as easily. It has a little bit of stretch, but not as much as it has for around the body. It's a two-way stretch. So when I'm lining up my fabric, I want to line up my fabric so... See, this is my waistband. It goes, I don't want to stretch out my waist, so let's do it at the hips. So it can stretch around my body and be as comfortable as possible. But I don't want it getting long while I'm wearing it, so where it's not stretchy, it goes this way. Okay? Woven fabrics don't have those stretches to them, but the straight up and down on a woven fabric has the stronger threads when you're weaving one over the other, over the other, over the other, and making a weave, hence woven fabrics. There's your strong up and down threads. So the threads that are going, let's say, up and down your pants Those are the strong ones that have the least amount of stretch to them. They're going to keep your garment to hold its shape and be sturdy and not twist or be wonky on you, especially if you're using those strong lines to keep everything going the way it wants to go. The filler threads go left to right and they fill up the fabric. There's more stretch in them, so they go around the body, giving you a little more bend, especially at your hips, your butts, your knees, places where you bend. You need that extra little bit of give. That it's so minute, but it exists. But you can hear it when you're pulling a piece of fabric. You can hear it pop a lot louder when you're on the warp. The warp thread, so that's the up and down of our grid, is called the warp. That would be our x-axis, y-axis. Anyways, your warp threads and then your weft threads. So the way I remember it is warp and weft. Warp is the strong one, and weft, you go weft to right. Hey, you'll never forget it that way. Now, we have these really strong threads going up and down. We're going sideways. Now, if you want to completely negate our strong threads that are going up and down and left and right, you can go on the bias. What does the bias do? You know those like accordion hook things that people hang on their walls where they're like really smooshed up and then they get really long, and or those contraptions they have in cartoons that extend to go bite things? Those are made with straight sticks on a grid, but when you push it, it extends and it gets really long, but then it also contracts and gets really short. That's what happens with the threads on your fabric when you cut on the bias, where all of a sudden everything like pushes and gets really skinny, or pulls and gets really fat, like one of those finger traps. You can push it or pull it. Those are woven on the bias. It's the stretch of the fabric, because instead of having these up and down grains, we're at the side where there's this hinge and it'll collapse. So if you want something to be stretchy, you want it on that collapse. If you don't want things to be stretchy or be catawampus, you want to avoid that stretch because you don't want it to collapse on you. You want the structure of your strong threads. So if you 4-year-old bias, it is like your popsicle sticks are an X versus a plus, or a plus sign versus a multiplication sign. But a 4-year-old wouldn't know what a plus sign and a multiplication sign is. All right, maybe I'm just getting more and more confusing, but I hope that helps. I'm also kind of dragging my feet a little bit of time. So if you want me to do the first method, let me know. If you want me to do the second method, let me know. First method is the easier way, but not the best way, but it's the easiest way. The second way is the quote unquote best way, but it's not the easiest way, and neither of them are wrong. They're just different preferred methods. So I hope that helps. It's just understanding the way your fabric's going to react based on the way you cut it out. You can't just fussy cut and cut fabric out any willy-nilly way like you can on foam. There is no grain line on foam because foam is like a felt. It's just a blob that's been smooshed together, and there's no grain on how those molecules hardened or cooled in the blob making process. It's just chaotic good. Okay. Nice little tangent. 45th Clown, how long would it take you to make these normally if you were not guiding us through the process? It takes me 8 hours to make a wedding dress from numbers to finished product. Now, if it's complicated in the fit or extra frills or super full skirt, it can take me up to 16 hours, but that's from patterning to finished product. So gauging off of that, it kind of depends. Now, if I'm designing something and making the pattern from something I haven't made before, most of the time is there. Like the actual creating, crafting, making, patterning, all of that stuff, takes me about 45 minutes to pattern. It takes me an hour to sew the main bits, pieces, things, jigs, you know what I mean? So it doesn't take me that long. I definitely does get dragged out when I'm talking. There's no lie about that. But I did track my time, so I have a very good concept of it. But where the time that it's the hardest to track is when I'm figuring out the pattern, because I'm just sitting there quietly in myself, looking off into space, maybe getting eye contact with a complete stranger, but I'm in my head sitting there and thinking it and thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking, and that's honestly the part that takes the longest. So if I've already figured out my pattern and I'm just making something I made before, it can go real quick. Now, if I've never made it before, that's where it takes forever, because I'm like engineering different ways. Am I doing this way, that way? What's the end? So, hope that helps. Okay. 45th Cloud, method 2, please. And Michael Snell, I would also say 2. So I have 2 for 2 and none for no other one. So if you want to see the first method, going once, going twice, and sold, I suppose, method 2 it is. Okay. So what we're going to do is we have 2 pattern pieces. There's a front, there's a back. Wait, I don't care. It just is what it is. What we're going to do is I'm going to put a pin at the hem of my pants. I'm folding my... I have 2 pattern pieces. Here's my pattern piece. Here's my waistband. I'm going to fold it in half. So my front and my back meet right at that point. And I'm going to pin it right at that point. We're trying to line up that point with the leg seam right here. We do not want to try and line that point up with the front or the back, because this back piece is going to have a little bit of a gap and won't line up because there's butt space there. So mark it at the top, mark it at the bottom of the hem, and then put as many pins as you feel like you need to sew this correctly. I have a velvet, so one of the little attitudes or little personality quirks of velvet is that there's the fur on it, and the fur lies in one direction, and if you're sewing with the direction, sometimes your fur might slip and your fabric pieces might move on you, which is a pain in the butt, but they don't move back because there's fur pushing it, so it can't go back, but it can keep going forward and not back, and it can be gosh darn awful to deal with. But if they're going the right way, sometimes it just like smooths over super easy. So just knowing your fabric, you decide how many pins you really need. Oftentimes, I don't even bother pinning as long as I'm lined up at my top and my bottom seam. And then always start at the top and work your way down, because if it's not going to line up, you want it to not line up at the hemline versus not lining up at the waistband, because waistband is way more closer to where people are looking, and that's no bueno. Okay, let me get a couple more pins in here. So this is slides one direction but not the other, but that's because there's a nap. Nap is a fancy word for fur. Well, a short fur. Okay. Do it for piece number 1 and piece number 2. Again, we got our giant pant leg. That's not giant, it's just a pant leg. Fold it in half. We're not matching up at the top, we're matching here at the little crotch seam swoops. Top of this. Bottom of these. Pin and sew. I normally would serge this because I love using my serger, but it is fully threaded for white, and I am not going to unthread it for white because I need it threaded in its white fabric at the moment. Bruno, you want to come say hi? Bruno, you're doing good. Don't be so sad. Here, come on up. You can come up. But I do have my sewing machine, and I'm just going to do a stretch stitch. Excuse me, my dear. There's a reason why You've been eating the kitty cat's food. You smell like your kitty cat's food. Yes, you do. Okay, Bruno, I love you, but you need to chill out for the moment. Here, do you want a chair? There you go. You have your own chair right there. Good boy. Okay. Distraction. Level Bruno. Oh my gosh, that's my hair. I can't even complain about Bruno's hair. That's mine. Okay. So I also have white thread threaded in my sewing machine, but I could quickly change that out for black thread right now. You guys hear my mess I'm making? All right. I needed black thread in my bobbin too. So, all right, on your mark, get set, let's go. Okay. Switch out the bobbin thread. I like it when sewing machines make it easy to thread the bobbin. I am a pro top loading bobbins. I prefer them so much better to bottom loading bobbins. I can't even speak. And I also appreciate it when sewing machine people make it easy to thread the needle with the little threaders. Those can easily get broken and ruined, but when they work, I love having one. There we go. All right. I'm going to go with the straight stitch, which on my brother machine is number 39. I am going to go with a neutral tension. I'm not going to do anything super tight or super loose because it doesn't really need it. And what is a stretch stitch? A stretch stitch is a really narrow zigzag stitch that looks like you're going back and forth like a back stitch, but it's like a really zigzaggy straight stitch that has a stretch to it when you sew with it so that you don't pop a seam when you're sewing with a slightly stretchy fabric. Okay, on your mark, get set, go. I forgot. It's okay, let's see, it might not be an issue. Oh, it is, okay. I'm gonna increase the stitch length just a little bit because there is a nap to my fabric. And my shoulders are slipping. Okay, much better. So right now I am sewing the inseam. believe it or not, it sometimes is really tricky to get seams that line up on paper to just line up after you've sewn them through the sewing machine, especially when the fibers are fighting against you and pushing back. But it lined up perfectly. It needs a little press, but I do have an iron. Let me turn that on. But let me sew all my seams and then I'll press them. Well, not all of them. I'll press. All right. Sometimes you have to be careful with fabrics because your needle will stab them into your bobbin and then you're so like, just to get started and you already start off on a bad foot. This fabric is notorious for that. It's like but thankfully it's not doing it. A sharp needle definitely helps. Although I don't know when I last changed this needle, so it might be a deal. But if it's a universal needle, a duller version of it is better for knit fabrics because then it acts more like a ballpoint needle. But yes, okay. Underleg seam. You smoosh it and you smoosh it and you smoosh it. Okay. Ironing board. So now I have a tube. See. Tis a tube. Now before I go to the next step, people love to forget this step. Okay, let me tell you why you don't forget this step. It can speed up a lot of time and you can get a lot going through it, and it isn't always necessary if your fabrics just really doesn't need to be ironed. This typically is a not iron fabric, but you want things to look professional. Iron your seams. So your seam, you press it. Why? Because things get a little wonky while you sew. Like, it's not that it's messed up or anything, but see how it's kind of like has a little bit of a bend and a bow to it? You press it out and then it's gone. It makes it look impressive. And yes, I meant to make that pun. But super simple, not a super hot iron because this is a knit fabric and synthetic on top of that. Doesn't take much. Just a little smoosh it and then you smoosh it. And then you smoosh it. Normally, I would press it open too, but because this is like a knit fabric and it's a synthetic, I don't really want to melt it. And pressing it flat made it really clean, so I'm only going to press it flat. And this is what my pant leg looks like. Sewn just one seam. This is my front. This is my back. It's slightly bigger so it doesn't, as you can see, and my side is just a rectangle. Let's take the other side and press our seam. See how there's just that little bit of a wonkiness to it? See this right here? There's nothing wrong with that. That it naturally happens. It's the fabric. It kind of gets smooshes while you smoosh it, you know? But this is where your sewing looks professional. You take the time to do this. And often I'm spending more time ironing fabric or my clothing or projects than I am actually sewing it. It makes it easier. Okay. And look it, all straight and pretty. Okay. I have one that's right side out and one that's inside out. My inside out one, inside, outside. Right side of the fabric, wrong side of the fabric. Wrong side of the fabric, right side of the fabric. I'm going to take it and the right side of this fabric goes inside the right side of this fabric. And see how there's the swoop? I'm going to put it inside. Lining up the inseam that we just sewed. I believe I can do this. Okay. One leg's inside of the other. Now what's going on? Okay. So, right sides together. Line up at the crotch seam. And now, wrong side of the fabric, wrong side of the fabric. The right sides are together. See? Right sides together. Okay? Let your brain chew on that for a second, okay? And this is why it's the tricky way. A little bit so I have a clear path to my sugar. Sugar. Okay, pins. First pin you're going to put in this is right at that crotch seam. See how you have the two seams you just sewed and they meet up all right there? So I like, if I'm doing a serge seam, I push my seam allowance one way and then I push my seam allowance the other way and they line up right at that part. But because I have a stretch stitch and my seam allowance can press open, I am going to put a pin on each side of my seam allowance so that it will line up when it goes through the sewing machine without getting off. Because although nobody's going to be looking between your legs at your crotch seam going, oh my gosh, that's not lined up, everything will be easier if it lines up. Okay. All right. And then pin the top of this curve where they match at the waistband. I don't want too many pins in this just because of the nature of this fabric and the way I like to approach a sewing machine. but use the amount of pins that feels right for you. Make sure we line up at the waistband. So in this one, we start at the waistband and we end at the waistband. So we are doing a curve. I start at the center front waistband and I work to my back, because if it's going to be off, I'd rather it be in the back than the front where I'm seeing it. If you can see it and I can't, whatever. But just the way things line up. Michael Schnell, that's witchcraft as far as I'm concerned. No, I get it. Like, it kind of like takes your brain a second to process the way the pants fit together when you're sewing them. But it makes so much sense. But I also laugh because there's a reason that pants didn't catch on super early in fashion history. Because the whole concept of fitting around closely and tightly. Honestly, I don't know why pants aren't a bigger thing in ancient history. They probably were. We just like to forget about things. Survival bias. I don't know. Making shit up. Okay. It's pinned. Ta-da! Now it is time to sew it. This is why my sewing teachers prefer this method, because you're sewing the curve. And the way it's supposed to be curved. Okay. So machine. I'm still at 39, my stretch stitch, at a stitch length 4, because I went slightly longer than a normal stitch length because of the loftiness of this fabric. But not a lot, because I still want it to hold tight. All right. There's the pins. Okay. Remember, this is a curved seam, so although you feel like you're sewing straight, you are sewing a curved seam, so you don't stretch out your fabric into a straight line. Go around your curves. Make sure I line up all my seam allowances. Nice and flat. Now that's sewn. I gotta press it because look, it's a little wonky, but as soon as it's pressed, it'll be pretty. So turn this off. Just put it there for a moment and pull this back out. Michael Snell, are the pins better than clips? They are different. They perform similar jobs with different advantages and disadvantages. clips are perfect for delicate fabrics that you don't want to poke holes into. Wovens and knits, you stab it, it's going between the things, not actually poking or damaging the fabric. That's why pins are used. It's like stitching. But clips are for when you can't pin. Like leather. If you poke a hole in leather, it will be there forever. So you don't pin leather. You don't pin vinyl. You don't pin plastics. There's lots of fabrics that you don't pin because of their fat things. That's where your clips come in. Also, some people just are averse to stabby pins and don't like having pins fall over their floor and having stabby things everywhere, which I get, but pins are cheap and clips are not. So I have tons of pins and no clips. If I have to pin something that's leather or vinyl or something like that, I will use other methods just because it's, having the right tool for the job makes it significantly easier, but it's not going to stop me from doing it anyways. Okay. So we sewed the inseam of both pair of pants, and now we of both legs. Now we sewed the crotch seam, and now we take this pant leg out of, reach into this pant leg, and I pull it out, and I have a pair of pants. Ta-da! Do you want to know how to find out which is the front, which is the back of a pair of pants? You hold it at the side seams and go like this, and then the pants will flip to the back. So it's flat on this side, and it flips out. The little curve flips out to the back. So this is my back, and this is my front where it's completely flat. That little thing isn't flipping out here, it's flipping to the back. So, but let's turn these right side out. This is the front of my pants. This is my back of my pants. And I just need to hem the bottom, which I will have to try on these pants to decide where I'm going to hem them exactly, because I know I have about this much wiggle room. About this much wiggle room. 2 inches of wiggle room. Because that's the ruler I used to draft those pants, so I know I have that much wiggle room. Okay. But then I also have a waistband. Let me measure. Where's my measuring tapes? Where's my measuring tapes? All right, sorry, I'm just mathing in my head. I'm like, okay, what's my finished length of the circumference of my circle? And then I need to figure out what. Typically for this elastic right here, which honestly I could do a thicker elastic, but I have this, so this is what I have. This elastic here, see how much it stretches? I can easily take 6 inches off of the waist measurement, and it'll stretch comfortably. So I didn't want to make it too tiny, but I definitely want to make it so that it stretches. So technically this is how long it should be. Does that feel like it's going to be comfortable? Yeah. I'm really particular about how tight things are on, because if they're too tight, I'm not gonna, especially elastic where it's smooshing you. So I like to give myself a little bit extra ease. There's times where I want a tight fit, but there's also times where I'm like, nah, it's not necessary. Okay, make a there's lots of different ways I could finish this. I'm just trying to think of which way I want to. All right. Because this is just such a shiny black fabric and eyeballs don't work on black fabric the easiest, I'm going to use and make myself a guideline for folding over my waistline. I'm going to press my seam allowance open and flat and sew all the way around my waistband at 1 inch, all the way around, leaving just an opening so that I can get in there with the elastic. Okay. Oops. Turning it off and on again, and so that I'm at a straight stitch. All right, starting at 0, I'm at a straight stitch and I'm increasing the seam length for the longest it can go. And I'm just basting a line around my waistband so I have somewhere to follow all the way around. I like giving myself guidelines, especially because, let me loosen up the tension because it is gathering it and I don't want it to. Normally when sewing pajama pants, I would use a, just press it with an iron to mark this line, but this is a drapey fabric that's not going to press. Jeez, what is going on? Oh, that is what's going on with my tension. It's not have anything to do with the tension on the sewing machine. It is tangled in a red thread. Huh. Who would have known? Okay, that may just have fixed all my... Okay, now let's fold it over right at that line. And stitch, making sure, so I'm gonna turn this off and on again. Back to normal tension, and I have a normal stitch length. Actually, I'm gonna increase it by just little 2 blips. 4. I had it at 4 for sewing my regular sew. All right. Right now I'm thinking of whether I need to have my fabric on the top or on the bottom. Where am I looking to sew this? this is the way. Okay, let's line up at there. I'm really glad that I have this black guideline because so much straighter when I have something to follow. All right, starting there, my guide. Back stitch so that I don't undo this. I'm getting things accomplished, so I'm getting quiet, but I folded over the edge and I made a nice waistband. Let me press it real quick. Oh, actually, technically don't, because it's just going to get scrunched up as soon as I add the elastic. Trim some threads because it's starting to look ridiculous. Okay, I have an elastic waistband channel. I have elastic, and then I am always dripping in, you can always see them, little safety pins, because they are a very, 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 very useful tool. I have a super big one. I also have a little one. I think I'm going to use the little one today, even though I like the big one. I just think it may be just a little bit bigger than I want it to be. Michael Snell, random question. Is that a Yiga Clan mask in the back, and where did you get that? Yes, that is a Yiga Clan mask in the back. And that was made. It was, I got one of those shiny silver face masks, those cheap ones you get off of like at a party store or at, I think I got that one at Party City, but you can also order them off of Amazon. They're just like blank silver masks. And then Odin, I gave him the, well, no, actually, did he look up the, anyways, he cut the logo out using his Cricut that he has, and stuck it on, and we painted around except for where the where you can see through it. So although technically it should be white in the center of the thing, it's silver and shiny, but you can see through it, so it looks really cool. I'll pull it out as soon as I'm done with this waistband. But that was some paint, a Cricut, and a blank silver mask to make a Yiga Clan costume. I think it turned out really good. Okay. just feeding this safety pin through the channel. I'm trying not to get it twisted and keeping it straight, right size up, because I do not want to create a Mobius strip, because that's a pain in the butt, and I hate Mobius strips, except for I think they're amazing and I love them and they're really cool mathematically, but when I'm sewing, I want to avoid them when I can. Okay. We sew the two. Ends together, no Mobius strip. Okay. Now that little spot where I left it open to thread the elastic through, I'm just going to close that up real quick using my sewing machine. I'm still on the same settings without going through the elastic itself. Trim the threads. Trim them now or I'll never see them until they're inconvenient. Waistband inserted. You know, I'm going to try them on over my pants. All right, this is the front, these are the back. It's kind of not fair because I'm wearing the exact same pants under these pants, so they're the same size at the ankles. Ta-da! You can totally not see my pants because they're black and blended with the background, but I have pants on. I even like the length. Okay. Now all I have to do is finish the hem, and then these pants are done. Trim that. I'm going to fold it up, slide it in here, and I'm just going to do that same regular straight stitch all the way around with a 1/2 inch cuff. Okay, so what I'm kind of dealing with right now is this fits right over the arm of my sewing machine with not a Hello, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Gone mute. Think you knocked a wire out. Oh, I think I just hit the button right here that changes the color of this spot right here from red to off. So, okay, can you hear me now? But simple hem. Hi, Jack. Come here. Come on. Oh, no, he's being shy today, but he can't see y'all. So what's he have to be shy about? Okay. Line up the seam because that's where it has to line up. And that's where you start so that you start and end where it belongs. Knowing, line it all up. Don't pull as you feed it through because knit fabrics curl. They curl. And so if you pull while you're sewing, it'll curl even more than you want it to. So you have to really be careful not to over pull. And back. Yes, yes. Okay. Well, welcome. I'm glad we got the audio back. Here, let me scream at the microphone with my sewing machine here. Really wants to curl. It's okay. Taking a deep breath and not like staying calm really helps a lot sometimes. Just deep breaths. And it all lines up. It means everything was right in the world. Okay, good. Let me trim off all my extra threads. And so inside out. And they're done. Let me bask in the joy of accomplishment. I accomplished something and it's over and it's done. Hooray! There's nothing to add, nothing to do, nothing more to say. Okay, just making sure I didn't accidentally turn this off again. Whoops. Okay, let me tighten this. Stay. Okay, stay. "45th Clown, was that a single fold for the hem?" Yes, I could have done a double fold, but this fabric doesn't, oh, how did I miss that thread? Bothering me. Let me clip it. This one doesn't have a fraying raw edge. It doesn't, there's nothing wrong with it. It looks really clean, just folded up without having a second fold. Sometimes I do a double fold, like I could take this and then just fold it again, but I don't think it's necessary. It has a little bit of stretch. It's not that stretchy. It fits the ankle. It's comfortable. They are pants. It was just a rectangle of fabric and now it is 2 pant legs. Any questions, class? Do you feel confident enough to attempt this project on your own? The way I sewed it, I sewed 1, 2, 3 seams, the waistband 4, and then each ankle 5, 6. 6 little seams, 2 pattern pieces, and a piece of elastic. You can use any commercial pattern as long as it has a waistband built in, or you can use their waistband, whatever. But you can also download, print, follow a tutorial on how to draft your own pattern. There's a million ways to do it, but the construction method is basically the same. We went with method 2, where we sewed the inseams and then the crotch seam, which gives it a better shape and a better comfort when you wear it. So yay for you guys going for the professional route. I'm impressed. Didn't want to just take the easy way. Not top. Way to go, finished a project for the win. Yes. Sense of accomplishment. Now all these projects that are sitting, waiting to be worked on. Granted, that dress right there, I didn't start till like last night, and I just kind of started throwing it together, and it's already coming into fruition in a beautiful way, and I love it. So it's happy things, and this project over here is getting done, and that project's getting done. So I have sense of accomplishment unlocked at the moment. Michael Snell, I need to watch the video at least 2 more times before trying it. Fair enough. Fair enough. With my little brother, I explained the process to him the entire time. He made a pair of pants without me actually there sitting in the room sewing with him. And he had to figure things out, and he came and asked me questions, and I explained it to him. And although he had a pair of pants when he was finished, he wasn't exactly the happiest with the results, but he was happy that he finished them. Then he wanted to do another pair of pants with better fabric, and he wanted to do a few tweaks and asked me for help. And so I actually sat down and did it with him, like while he was doing it there. And I was telling him the exact same thing, but as I was as he was doing it, I was explaining, oh, you just kind of smoosh it and you smoosh it. He's like, oh, it makes so much more sense now with you here explaining it and telling me how to do it versus you just telling me. And I'm like, no, that makes sense, because a lot of it is you don't know until you know. And it's like, oh, okay. That's what I'm talking about, like the starting at the top, working your way down, because sometimes your pant legs will be 2 different lengths and you're like, wait, what the heck happened? It wasn't anything you did. It's just kind of the nature of the fabric and the sewing machine, and it all combines to make things not line up by the time you get to the hem. I figured out workarounds and smooshings and things, like depending on the fabric's special needs, because every fabric has its own special needs, and each fabric you sew is not going to be the same as sewing with another fabric. But understanding their grain lines helps. Understanding their characteristics helps. It really does. So, I believe in you. I believe it's possible. I think it's an achievable goal. Like, I would do a pant making workshop where at the end of the project we'd have a pair of pirate pants, or peasant pants, or whatever we call them. Working at the costume shop, I rented these pants, velvet wren pants, which are just basically pajama pants with an elastic waistband. Like literally these exact pants for pirate costumes for so many of the Renaissance, because you don't see the waistband, it's comfortable, you just wrap it with a sash for pirates, for the things. Like, this is just a good character pant that we use at the costume shop all the time, so they're very versatile. So I would totally do a workshop, and I think we could have a pair of pants within an hour. This took me to about an hour and a half. It's 1:45, an hour and 45 minutes to talk to you guys and diddle daddle on making a pair of pants. So think it could happen. I believe in y'all. Other people can do it, you can do it too. I believe in you. Okay. Not top. Any new projects on your mind heading into the new year? Yes, I have a whole list of them staring at me right there. I want to make a neon dress. I have this great fabric right here. Let me show you. I love it when the cameras can't figure out what's going on because my fabrics are so bright and obnoxious. So I have this lovely fabric right here. I have a bunch of it. It's been it's so old. The tag is faded. it was originally $4.50 for one piece. I don't know. I have it in my collection, and I wanted to make something out of this to match my favorite bag. I want to make some Renaissance Fair outfits. I was thinking about making a doublet for my little brother for Christmas or surprise for his birthday, depending on how long it takes me to get it done. I want to make some button-up shirt pillowcases where I take a button-up shirt and sew a square and make it turn it into a pillowcase. Super easy and cute and decorative, but I wanted to make that for Thanksgiving, but I ended up doing different pillows, but also as Christmas presents, because little pillows. That's on my list. And then I also kind of want to make the corn curtains from the Simpsons house, and I've been thinking about that too. So those are random projects that are in the back of my head. I also made a straight jacket recently, and then I made a straight jacket wedding dress recently, and I'm working on an actual real wedding dress now, and I've made a few other projects in there. So there's a lot on my list of things floating around. And you know what I still need to just finish and do? I have one gauntlet left on that gunny sack dress that I made. I put in the 1-inch too short gauntlet zipper on one side, and I don't hate it. It gives it a little bit of an extra flare at the wrist, which is actually more comfortable. So I'm going to do it at the other side too, but because it's not perfect, it's sitting there, and that's all I have to do, and it'll be finished. So there's a few projects that are sitting off into never edit land at the moment. Not really like never edit land, but in the project abyss. They can be happy. They can be happy. They can be accomplished. That would make me happy, but right now they're not. They're just sitting there. So those are the new projects on my radar, but there's so much more. Like, I didn't expect to be working on this, but I'm very glad that I get to. Yeah, lots and lots of random projects. I'll bring you along for as many as I can. This one, not this one. This one's a special one. A little sneak peek, but this isn't the dress. This is the prototype, which will be a completely wearable dress, and when I'm done with it, because why waste this gorgeous fabric? But it needs to have its debut. No surprises leaked or anything like that. You know what I mean? So 45th Clown says, I think I'll be doing shorts version first. Very smart. I did shorts before I ever did actually full-length pants. Not that the length of the pants is that big of a deal, but it was just super fast, not too much fabric commitment, and I ended up cutting 2 fronts out instead of a front and a back because I had my side seam and I just missed the pieces. You're learning mistakes. It happens. And so I ended up patching in that little extra little bit that you need to turn the difference between the front and the back. And then I wore those ugly shorts forever. They were my favorite ones. They were, okay, remember those gecko pants that were like, not hammer pants, but they had those crazy prints on them, often geckos, neon, 90s, crazy pants. They have a name and it's completely blanking on them. But anyways, it was made out of that fabric. It was a hot pink and purple, looked like a TV static fabric with a weird print on it. It was completely that gecko print fabric from those pants, but just the fabric. And it was like old fabric when I had it, and I turned it into a pair of shorts that, like, the fabric was hideous and I loved it, and those shorts were hideous and I absolutely loved them, and I wore them all the time until they were destroyed. I wore those shorts. They were super comfortable, and there's that sense of accomplishment wearing things that you actually created, because there's like, you made it and you're like, I ain't never wearing that again. That was for the special occasion. It's a costume. But wearing clothes that are like actually comfortable, that you're like, this is my lounge set, like these that I'm wearing, you guys. Woo. This little jumpsuit that I'm wearing, it is stretch knit. It's lined in the front. It has a scooped back. It feels like I'm wearing overalls. I don't know. It's super comfortable. So, yes. Anyways, I am definitely going off on a tangent. I think my live streams being 2 hours is more than long enough. So let me read the rest of the comments and then say my goodbyes. 45th Clown. I'll be doing the shorts version first. Yep, I read that comment. Dan Does Junk saying, glad to finally catch your streams after a while. Welcome back, Dan. I'm glad you're here. Parachute pants. Parachute pants are MC Hammer pants, but they're not the same as the gecko pants because the gecko pants are a very specific pattern, but I'm just blanking on what type of pants those are. Working at the costume shop, I could tell you exactly the section and go grab the ones that I want. They're pink and teal. But anyways, fun times. I now have a new pair of pants. I'm excited about that. Next week, yes, I will be here next week. So next Tuesday, sometime Tuesday-ish, I will be going live again. Make sure that you have your notifications on, subscribe, like, bell, whatever you got to do you got to do. I also post that I'm going to go live on my Discord group and also the Odin Makes Discord group. That one, I believe there's a paywall to get into, but mine there is not. If you want to know beforehand when I'm going to go live, I give Discord the first heads up that I'm going to go live, but I will be back next week with some kind of random project that I will let you guys join me on. Probably something fun and crafty for gifts ideas. I don't know, because I have a lot of gifts to make, and we'll see. We'll see. But thank you for crafting along with me. If you have questions, feel free to put them in the comments section. I can address them later, especially if you have any questions about pants or a pair you're working on. I'm nosy. I love a good crafting problem. Anyways, I am now just rambling on. 45th Clown, thank you for today. Have a good rest of your day and have a good rest of your guys' day, and I'll see you all next Tuesday.